Meeting to order here at Holy Redeemer High School today, and before we begin, big thank you to our youth counselors for getting this all set up, and the staff and administration here at Holy Redeemer High School for hosting our council meeting today. Can I get a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as presented?
I can do that for you.
Councillor Chouinard will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, the minutes of the April 2nd, 2019 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Sorensen will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. We have no public hearings, no delegations, no reading of bylaws. Can I get a motion, please, that council call a special meeting of council on April 23rd, 2019 at 5 p.m. for the presentation of the 2018 financial statements by the town auditor Murgard, Barford, Williams, Jolly, and Starkovich. Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion, and I'll hand things over to CEO Derricott if he wants to just talk about why we need to do this.
I will defer to Ms. Bittner.
Ms. Bittner, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. The special meeting of council, we're asking for this to be called for the reading of the financial statements for you, because we are required to have them to the municipal affairs by May 1st. And after this meeting, there's no council meeting until May 7th. So we're just asking if we can have a special meeting before the committee meeting next week, just for the financial statements to be presented to council. Then the committee meeting will start directly after.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that in accordance with bylaw 2059, Peace Officer Bylaw, Council appoint Jim Desatel as Community Peace Officer Bylaw Officer for the town of Edson? Councillor Byer will make that motion. And we have Mr. Schramm here, who's our Director of Protective Services, to speak to this motion.
Yeah, it's just as the memo asks, basically with Mr. Desatel taking on his new role as Enforcement Services Manager, one of the things we do require is a council resolution to grant him the authorities to enforce our municipal bylaws, and such for the recommendation from council.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Wilkinson?
Is this a new position?
This is a part of the reorg, so he's taken on the role of Enforcement Services Manager, and it's fulfilling a vacancy that we've had in the past, just an enforcement officer.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Chouinard?
Just a comment. I think we have the right individual we chose with his background, so I look forward to him filling this role. That'd be a great thing.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion. All those opposed? We have one opposed. Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council authorize the town of Edson to submit the attached resolution to the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association, AUMA, urging the provincial government to consider review and institution of an aviation fuel fee in order to attribute a portion of the cost of community airports directly to the user. Councillor Bevan will make that motion, and we have Mr. Martino Verhage here who can speak to this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. As you can see within the report, we don't have anything else to add as staff. However, for the members of the audience who've reviewed this resolution on, I believe, April 9th in your previous committee, we require a resolution from council to move this forward to the AUMA conference to be resolved by the rest of the membership to petition government to ensure that we're able to address financial issues at the airport appropriately and gain that support from our senior government.
All right, thank you. Councillor Chouinard?
Yeah. On this, do we have any indication on how much financial impact by doing this? Do we have a rough idea how much money we would get by the airport if we move this forward?
Mr. Chairman, we haven't prepared that information for this agenda. However, if it's a request of council, we can prepare that information. That's relevant to your...
It's just more of an actual question just for information. And if we, I mean, I agree with it 100%. But then I'm just sort of curious, I don't need it right away, just curious of what kind of financial impact that would make, because our airport is very important, and anytime we can get outside costs that virtually alleviates the burden of the cost of running an airport, so it's all a nice bonus.
Go ahead, CEO Norcott.
If I could just add to that, I think it would be difficult to describe what any end program may look like, because all we're doing is making a request that the province consider a program, but we don't know anything about the rates they might apply, or if they apply them, how they then might allocate the funding. And so I think the best information we could provide at this point would be a general idea of how much aviation fluid is sold in the province, and I'm not sure that that is a especially meaningful number for council at this point. But I do think that the principles in the resolution are sound, and that we're hopeful that AUMA and then by extension the province will consider the concept.
Thank
All right, Councillor Wilkinson and then Councillor Byer.
Through the chair, just as a question, have the youth council or the audience seen the information that we're putting forward at AUMA? Maybe it could be explained more fully?
Yeah, so I certainly can explain that. So one of the things is there's a number of airports within the province of Alberta that the province uses for forestry efforts, for medevac and other issues. Municipalities are largely footing the bill when it comes to the operations of those airports. Edson is one of those municipalities, and what we're looking for is some more provincial funding in order to operate and maintain those airports. Just to pave a runway, for example, can it be anywhere from $1 million to $10 million? It's a fairly expensive undertaking when it comes to capital investment with lighting and all the other things that we need to do. It's highly regulated by the federal government. Edson is fortunate to have one of the largest airports in the province. It's actually an emergency airport for the international out of Edmonton because of the length of our runways. So what we're looking for here is the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association is an organization that represents all municipalities in the province, urban municipalities. And what we're looking for those members to do is to support this resolution to help us lobby for more equitable funding when it comes to funding airports within the province of Alberta. All right. Councillor Byer.
Through the chair, to my councillors, I'm really glad that administration was able to do this up for us, and also thanks to the councillors who have already spoken to our friends in the county and Hinton, and when we go to other events, I hope that we can continue talking about this to other towns that we would be hoping that they would support this resolution at AUMA in the fall.
All right, thank you, Councillor Byer, Councillor Sorensen, and Councillor Bevan.
Through the chair to administration, do you believe this is written as an aviation fuel fee on all fuel in the aviation fuel in the province, or is it just aviation fuel sold in community airports?
Go ahead, Mr. Rahagi.
Mr. Chairman, through to Councillor Sorensen. The resolution is relatively broad, so it wouldn't be specific. It would, however, spur the provincial government to provide a response on their position on that consideration. If they chose to move forward with a regulation, with a program, with an allowance for the fee for the fuel, that then would be negotiated likely with the sector at that point, both the aviation sector as well as the municipal sector, with the province then determining what it considers to be the appropriate mechanisms.
Thank you, Mr. Rahagi and Councillor Sorensen. Councillor Bevan.
Through the chair, just to comment that on my committees I've been going to, and that they know that we are bringing this forward and they are supporting this. They said it's they're in the same kind of boat as we are with the airports and stuff like that, even though we are a bigger airport. We have a tanker base here for firefighters and stuff like that, really important. So they are going to support us in that, and they're glad we bring it. The other question they asked is about somebody bring back electric charging stations. So I said, I will bring it back to council and we'll see what goes on, but they're definitely support for us.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Bevan. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? I do have a question through to administration, just it's not coming off the top of my head. How much do we fund the airport currently operationally, and what's our annual average capital investment into the Edson Airport?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do actually have those numbers, but I wasn't prepared for that question specifically. We share that, the operational cost and the capital costs, 50-50 with our regional partner, Yellowhead County. Currently this year, from a capital perspective, we've invested in equipment that's well over $100,000. I think we're close to that $140,000 range total, maybe a little under. Our cost would be half of that, and then of course that's competitively bid. With regards to our operational costs, I'm not sure if you have
Trying
that.
to bring the, I don't have the information.
Okay.
That's right.
If administration can provide that to council after this meeting, that'd be fantastic.
Will it be in the quarterly report if I look in there?
Yeah, I was trying
Oh,
to.
there you go.
$481,000 is the operational budget this year for the airport.
Expense.
Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council tasks the youth council with reviewing the mayor for the day information package and presenting the recommendations at a future committee of the whole meeting for further discussion? Councillor Byer will make that motion, and this is something that we talked about in strategic planning, but we do have, your name escapes me, Tanya, with Community Services, with us here to give us an overview of what was discussed.
So at our past youth council meeting, it was passed that the youth council did want to go ahead with Mayor for a Day. Ali Broda from our department, she did some background research and found the municipality of Airdrie and Whitecourt both do this Mayor for a Day. They don't add it as a policy. The way that they structure it is more as a special project or a contest. And so that's what I would suggest. So what Ellie's done is made up some suggestions as to what the application would look like, and then also the rules, I guess, and parameters of the contest. And at this point, all we're asking is for a decision to send this to youth council for them to discuss and go through and then bring it forward to another committee of the whole meeting.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Bevan and Councillor Schreiber.
Through the chair, Tanya, I have spoken with some of these people of the Whitecourt and stuff like that, some of their councillors that I do know, and some of the kids and friends over there, and they like it. They say it's a great thing. It's nice to get our youth involved in that, and I have not heard a bad thing from any of the places that use it, so I'm glad we're going ahead with it. I think it's good for our youth council to step up and want to try to be mayor for a day and follow around and see what happens and report back to their council or their classes and that, so I think it's a good thing. I'd like to see us keep doing it.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bevan. Councillor Schreiber.
Just an actual comment. I'm all in favor. The only sad thing, I've had a chance now to speak to them, and it's too bad all 12 of them, because every one of those individuals could all fit that role. So whatever competition you put in play, make them work for it, because any of them 12 could be mayor for a day.
Councillor Curry and then Councillor Wilkinson.
Through the chair, just two comments. First of all, this is not just for youth council, it's for the whole community, right?
That's right.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to clarify that. So it is competition for the whole community. I think it's fantastic. I'm excited to see what you guys come up with and to see the package once you guys get your hands on it. And I think it's great to get their initiatives, because having spent time with the youth in the community, they have some phenomenal ideas, and I think they think outside of the box. So I'm excited to see what the project is that wins for the Mayor of the Day.
If I could, through the chair, just to clarify a little, I don't believe the youth council would actually be able to apply to be mayor for a day. They would actually be the decision makers as to who is the successful mayor for the day.
Your councillors every day. Go ahead, Councillor Wilkinson.
Well, I had the same comment. I thought it was the youth council initiating this contest to find a mayor for the day. And thank you if you take that on. I think it's exciting. You get to have a chance in seeing who's going to run this place.
Councillor Byer.
Through the chair to administration, thanks for bringing this forward. When we spoke at the youth council, they were very enthusiastic about this project and had numerous ideas on how it could be successful, so I look forward to those continued conversations.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Yeah, I share everyone's comments here. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for youth to get involved, and for our youth council to see some new ideas that they might actually run with afterwards. And I think this first straw dog or draft is a great opportunity for the youth council to bite their teeth into. My only comment was that there was two finalists that would compete for the mayor, and I just hope that the runner-up would receive something so they weren't just left with nothing, because they obviously had a good idea to get to that final point.
Go ahead, see what everybody.
May I suggest deputy mayor?
That's what he's getting.
Things that happen to the youth mayor for a day, deputy in place.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. We have no information items, no sundry items. We're going to go down to council committee reports. So we are going to go to April 2nd, and we will start on my right side with Councillor Byer.
Okay, thank you. So on April 8th, I attended a youth council meeting where we talked about in great detail our environmental stewardship, and they felt strongly that we should step up our current plans and actions that we have been taking in the community, and had lots of great ideas on what those could be. And then on April 17th, yesterday I attended an Edson Library Board meeting. We had our staff appreciation supper last night, followed by a continuation of our AGM, and Jackie Mitchell is continuing to be the chair for the remainder of the year. And some good discussions as well about some other library issues.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
On April 11th, I had the West Gilhead Waste Management Authority meeting that was actually a conference call. And then that same day we had the Edson District Recycling Society meeting.
All right. And youth council meeting was that day?
Right, and youth council.
Yeah. Councillor Wilkinson.
I've just been away to the Alberta Senior Housing Conference. I've got some brochures if any of you are interested in looking at this. It's part of my role as being on the Evergreen Foundation. We had very interesting guest speaker, 2 hours, but it was a man who had worked at Disney World, actually in Florida, and his whole impact was how do we treat our clients or our customers, and it really applied very well to the town. By Brownlee, they presented on cannabis use. There's no huge problems in seniors with cannabis use either yet. So it's sort of a non-problem area throughout, which is very nice to hear. But I have these if anyone's interested. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Chenard.
Okay, I finally get to report on 2 of my ones, and on April 5th, I was actually surprised. I showed up at the Trans-Canada Yellowhead thing, and they were actually presenting me with an award for being on the board since 2010. In fairness, this is kind of awarded to the town of Edson for their members. So it was not only me, but it was awarded to me. I got great pleasure because it's a big trophy, and our outgoing Minister of Transportation, Brian Mason, stood up and he had the Stanley Cup and he got to brag it all up, and I got to squish his bubble because I was up next, and the first thing I said, you had the cup, I took it from you. But what the importance of this is, we went through the importance of Trans-Canada. And very interesting, while you're there, we had the Minister of Transportation from all the provinces except Alberta, because there's during an election and allowed, but because he was the outgoing minister. So it is very important lobbying group, and Jasper brought through, there was a lot of motions brought forward, but Jasper, we're at AUMA, we're lobbying to get their power charging station, and they were not so successful, so Trans-Canada is bringing it forward, so they're going to lobby on their behalf. I also became a board member, and a lot of it is by phone calls, but what's important is on this board, we can interact with the Ministers of Transportations. So something I fought for a long time, and while I was doing my speech and all, I forgot, but like traffic lights. The other thing we talked about is where the highways go through our town. So one thing that was expressed that was important to us is like cleaning and maintaining the highways, but also we're going to lobby all the towns it goes through to keep them in better shape, potholes and stuff. So instead of the burden on the town, it's a huge lobbying group. So we went through the importance, and I believe it was the 73rd annual, and where they recognized Edson has been one of the original members, so the importance. Then moving on, it's like show and tell, because I went to my PAC meeting, which is the Weyerhaeuser, the Mills Advisory. They talked about, the one interesting stat is the amount of trees that they replant every year. It was 10.8 million trees planted in this Edson, Hinton area. They've also, and I do not know if these are for public, but they gave us 2 books which were on the actual history. I'm going to look through them and they will be accessible. It was the history of the mills, and I was surprised too. It was 1955 when they started actually cutting mills in Hinton, and then they gave us the whole history on all the mills involved. So the forestry right now is very strong, so it was just a very good information thing. So there's lots of detail. If you have questions, I'll ask, but I'll move on to the next one.
All right, thank you. Councillor Curry.
Perfect. I was at the Economic Developers of Alberta Conference, April 2nd to April 5th. And I will not read all my notes for you, because shockingly, 3 days of a conference, I have lots. I will send them out though. A couple big things though that I thought were really big ones was tourism. There was a lot of really successful conversations about tourism, and one of the big things was to think differently. And the past used to be about doing big ticket item things. We're trying to attract people by items, and now they talk about tourism is about making it a place where people want to be. So it's actually more about making it a place where people want to live and creating that environment of place, not token items that bring people in. That was kind of everyone that talked about tourism brought that back up, which was really interesting. And then a big thing they talked about is moving, so economic development mistakes. They said kind of 6 main things were sea of sameness. So we constantly hear we're open for business. Every single community says that. Sea of sameness, do something different. Designing your website as a static site was one. Ignoring the future reality. Ignoring that new collaboration clusters are a must. Not aggressively supporting current companies. And being boring, which I really appreciated that one. And then a lot on the economic development forecast. You can talk to me after about that. That was a really great one. But amazing presenters, and all of the REDAs, or not all of the REDAs, but there was a session I attended that was 5 of the REDAs. So REDAs are collaborations of municipalities that work together on a project, presented their success sharing, which was really interesting, and then talked about what didn't work. So yeah, it was a great conference with a lot of really good information.
All right, thank you, Councillor Curry. Councillor Bevan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On April the 10th, I attended the chamber meeting, and they're doing very well. On the 3rd, they held a forum at the Gallery Station Museum where 137 people came out to see our future leaders in that. Also, they had some new members sign up for the chamber. They're doing very well in their membership. Coles Oilfield, McElhaney Geometrics Engineering, Empowering Health Journey, Connect Care, and H&R Block are now new members. They've never been there before. April the 22nd and the 27th is our trade show in Edson. The town of Edson will have a booth in there also. So I'd like to have everybody stop over there. You can ask any question you want. We'll have lots of information there. So please stop by the trade show booth. The next big one is July 10th to 12th. There's a summer festival. They are gearing up for that. April the 11th, I attended a director board's meeting for Community Futures West Yellowhead. We had a good discussion there. The one thing that was brought up, we had our first meeting with Greenview, which took over Grand Cache, and the biggest thing they said was on the non-residential mill rate, they lowered it from 24 to 7. So that was a big opening there, so business is happy about that. Their library is now open, which it wasn't before, so the library is being open, so it's going to be good for them and that. Also, the next thing is Lemonade Day is coming up in Jasper and Hinton, and that's on the June the 20th, and I am also going to be a judge for that.
22nd.
Or 22nd, I should say. We got a thing on the 20th to go to. Their mission statement on this one was to help today's youth become the business leading, social advocate, community volunteers, and forward-thinking citizens of tomorrow and that. And I know there is places, there's kids in town here that would like to sign up. They will be expanding next year also on that. And the other one, Community Futures, was on their loan portfolio. We had a discussion on that, eh? And on that portfolio, their director's priorities are to increase and promote tourism, entrepreneurship in the region, to increase and promote agricultural forestry projects and the processing in the region, to increase youth entrepreneurship within the communities, prepare entrepreneurship for alternative energy initiatives and exploring opportunities and partners for advanced and new technology. They do a lot here. Their loan portfolio is diverse through agriculture, business, home businesses, whatever that. And that's my report.
All right.
I got
Can I
lots
add to
else
the
to say.
lemonade stand, just so my committee?
Quickly.
Lemonade stand, that's on the 22nd. If any of the youth councillors, there is like 2 of us that are judging. If any of you were interested on the 22nd on coming, you could talk to us and you could come see the ones in Hinton and Jasper, because they're that day. So we would gladly take a youth councillor with us if they wanted to come and help.
Actually, what I'll do is I'll leave this with one of the youth councillors. You can take it. If you don't have one, then look it over and decide when you get back to us.
All right, thank you. My report on April 8th, Regional Waste Management Conference Call with Councillor Sorensen. Also on April 8th, we had our first Edson Community Health Partnership meeting. This is a meeting with AHS, the PCN, Yellowwood County, Town of Edson, and other stakeholders to talk about healthcare issues within the community. Really interesting information. A part of our discussion was around the 211 service. The hospital wasn't even aware that we had a 211 service, so this highlights the need for us to get together. So we've already started collaborating on that, making sure that information is being shared. Some stunning statistics from the PCN when it comes to mental health supports, diabetes, and some of the other things they're working on. They're part of some pilot projects, so the PCN is going to be coming to a future council meeting to highlight some of those and share with council that I think the council will be very interested in. And we talked about some of the issues that they see at the hospital, domestic violence in terms of some of the clients that they see, homelessness. So the committee decided that we are going to try to delve a little deeper into the issue of homelessness and domestic violence and have some discussions about what we can do to support those vulnerable populations and where there's gaps in services. So we had I think it was a 2-hour meeting. It was really, really interesting, and look forward to having the PCN come to council because it was quite stunning information. And then on April 8th, we had our youth council meeting, and that was a fantastic discussion around environmental issues, plastic bags, recycling, and some really good discussion that the youth councilors are actually going to do some research and put together a little bit of a report on the issue around plastic bag bans. And I know Jasper is currently undergoing that process as well. So we'll look forward to seeing the information that the youth council comes up with on that particular issue. And that's my report. Councillor Bevan and then Councillor Shenard.
Through the chair, just a question. On your committee there, is that someplace you'll be talking about MART?
Yeah, I think we'll probably end up talking about that at our next meeting, now that we've had some information brought to council on medically at risk drivers, so.
Good.
Councillor Shenard.
Just a comment, when we're doing our council reports and we make it add in, since we have youth council, it would be something nice if we get a report in cooperation with our council reps, like choose 1 or 2 of them to just bring us a little highlight. I think maybe an added thing. So, okay, when they have their youth council meetings, then they could address us during other committee whole or council, like we could add in a council report from youth council.
Yeah, they will be coming quarterly.
Okay, so they are coming quarterly, but I mean, after every council meeting, they all look pretty eager and they're just excited to join us up here, and it'd be nice to have the other chair.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, just a question on your report with that plastic bag ban.
Yeah.
When I was on the Regional Waste Council, Ann Oriat had at that time plans for a plastic bag ban right from Evansburg straight all the way to Jasper, and I think it's really powerful if you could get the whole regional section up there to ban the plastic bags.
Yes, absolutely. We've had that discussion at the regional waste meeting.
Oh, have you? Good, it's still continuing.
Yeah,
Good.
and I think it's something that we'll be talking about as we talk about strategic plans, that we're going to be putting initiatives in place. We shouldn't be doing them one-offs, like Hinton
No.
doing something, and then Hinton doing, or Whiteport, or Jasper doing something differently, has far more impact if we're all together and we move forward in the same direction,
Yeah,
right?
I
So,
talked to Paul about that when we were at
Yeah.
our meeting. I said, let's all get
Yeah.
together instead of
yeah,
little pockets.
piecemeal, right?
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
all right, moving on. Yeah, what?
Speaking on the plastic bags, when I was at the Community Futures, Jasper did give us a report, and they give me their bylaws and everything else, and they are going forward with the plastic bag ban and that. They extended it by another week because they were getting lots of information back from the people on that, and it looks like they will be putting it into effect. So I have their bylaws and everything else, along with Wetaskiwin, Whiteports, and whatever, and that I'll throw onto the back table of the council there. Our administration can take a look at something like that. They are definitely moving ahead with a few parks.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion? We're going to move on to financial, the 2019 March quarterly report. Can I get a motion, please, that council accept the 2019 March quarterly report as presented? Councillor Curry will make that motion. And we have Ms. Bittner joining us once again to go through the quarterly report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The quarterly report's presented with 3 items. We have the budget to actual summary, also an update on any capital projects that were budgeted for over 500,000, and any requests for proposals that have been accepted throughout the first 3 months of the year if they come to over 50,000. So if we start with the budget to actual report that we have in front of you. Looking at it for March, there's a lot of things that haven't actually happened yet within the year, so there are some that are quite low if you look at the sort of 25% of the year that's gone through. So I've just done a little report on the front here, looking at anything that was sort of more than 10% outside of that, just to give you a sort of an idea of why some of those are on the outskirts of that. Things like the policing and disaster, waste collection, a lot of these, we just haven't been invoiced for them yet within this year. Other things like parks and cemetery, there's a lot more summer work that happens there, so that's why their expenses are on the sort of below that 10% threshold there as well. Some are over, for example, the landfill sitting at the 49%, that's because of that fire issue. Those invoices will be covered by a liability account, so you'll see that even itself out in June once we get some more of those figures, and I can do some of those entries to counteract those expenses. The recycling is, we give them a quarter, we give a grant each quarter. We do that at the sort of the beginning of the quarter, so January they got their first one, at the end of March they got their second one for the next quarter, so that's why it looks like it's already at 50% for the year. As far as revenues go, there's lots of things we bill out once a year, so we get that revenue in quite early on in the year. And some things, as the federal grants and county grants, we do at the end of the year, so we sort of have those different times when those entries are done. Obviously taxes aren't run until May, so they're showing 0%, but that will obviously look very different at the June report. So if there's any questions on that portion of the quarterly report.
All right, I'll open up the floor. Any questions? Councillor Curry?
Through the chair, just for the sewer, so is that saying that there's more funds coming in, or just because it's a new plant, our budget was off? Can you just clarify that for me, please?
Sorry. Yes, because we haven't really had a full year of running that plant, we had to sort of do a lot of estimation on those budgets that we didn't really have a lot of history for to help us get those estimates. So we've done the best we can based on some other plants that have run. They're not necessarily identical to ours, so we had to do a little bit more of an estimate of a budget for the sewer. So we're just going to have to see how we go throughout the year, and then we can adjust 2020's budget a little bit better on 2019's historical costs.
Okay, and follow up?
Joel, just, and then one more through the chair. So for recycling, is it at 60% because of the capital?
So through the chair to Councillor Curry, yes.
Okay.
They've received half of their operating,
Okay.
and also all of their capital.
Okay, so
for the
that
year. So they
10%
get that at
is...
the beginning of the year to plan their capital projects for the year. So that's why it's looking at 60%.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Chenard?
I may be too soon because my question's on capital projects. That's next, so I'll hold my question.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, we can move on.
Now move on to the capital update. There were 3 items that were approved in December where the budget was over 500,000. One was the 2019 street rehab. At this time, the year-to-date amount is for the design of the projects. We haven't actually started any of those projects as of yet. The Bench Creek stabilisation was sort of a carryover of the Bench Creek project from 2018, and most of those expenses have come in 19. The multi-use facility is the approved amount at this stage is the 40 million, and we paid 66, which is part of that, paying off the design and site selection program.
66,000.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yes.
66,000.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Any
Questions on that?
questions, comments, or concerns?
Now I got the
Councillor
question. Okay, so I think you've answered the question because we had like street rehab and paving, 6.5, and then I go, wait a minute, we spend 184,000 on paving, but that is the design plan.
It's the design for those projects.
And then the other one, because it's two together, the Bench Creek, the extra costs will come next year because looking at these numbers where we approve. So this is to date, because I believe we're up to about, time we're said and done, we're closer to 900 rather than 600. So that'll...
Councillor Chenard, yes, that's correct. We did have some expense in 18.
Right.
And this was the remainder of that budget that had been approved at that time.
Okay, yeah, it was just
Carried forward to 2000.
It was just clarification and you answered some, so thank you.
CEO Derek.
I would just add to that, council will be reviewing a revised 2019 capital budget at an upcoming meeting, and there will be some requested adjustments to the Bench Creek stabilization budget at that time.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Bitter.
I've got one more.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Just the, move on to the RFP, request for proposal. We had one in the time frame for the first part of the year for our cleaning contract, and attached is a summary of the actual project, plus the decision criteria, and then the top 3 successful, or the top 3 applicants, including the successful runner-up.
Okay, any questions, comments, or concerns?
I had a concern, but you answered it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. All right, we're going to move on to questions from media and public regarding items from this council meeting. Anybody have any questions about anything we discussed today?
I don't have a question.
She's hiding.
Where are you?
Finally got friends.
We'll be hanging out a little bit afterwards, so if any youth councillors have any questions, you can ask us directly as well. So, all right, we have no closed meeting session, so I'll call the question. Motion for adjournment?
I can do that.
Non-debatable. Councillor Chenard makes that motion. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you.